That's the moment the Party for Socialism and Liberation says was inaudible in the critical incident video showing the police shooting that killed Adam Sykes.
Today we tell Mike Brown and the ruling class that we won't be divided. We've seen these tricks before. Immigrants are not dangerous. Capitalism is.
Welcome to another episode of Naptown People's Radio. This is a weekly podcast brought to you by the Indianapolis branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm your host, Dani Abdullah, and I'm here with my comrade and co-host,
Derek Ford.
We're here to guide you through the pressing issues facing Indianapolis from the perspective of our people, not our oppressors. And as organizers involved in these issues, we're not just talking about the news, we're making it happen. So today we got to sit down with Kwame being Shakur, and that should not be confused with our fallen comrade Kwame Shakur. So we'll just refer to him as Beans right now. But Beans is a political prisoner in Miami Correctional Facility, also known as the Speedway Slammer. And he is a New African political prisoner. Also co-founded the New African Liberation Collective with our comrade Shakur. And he is the director of Prison Lives Matter. And he sat down with us to talk about the ongoing struggle for his freedom, as well as all political prisoners. And as well as the work that's being done in his hometown of Terre Haute, where they're teaching the community to grow their own food. And, you know, what does sovereignty mean? And what does that look like? What does that mean to show up for your community and show up for yourself as well? This is especially significant to have this conversation with Beans, a New African political prisoner, the week of Juneteenth, a celebration of enslaved Africans finally having their freedom recognized. But we're not all free yet. Juneteenth isn't just a celebration for descendants of enslaved Africans to go, oh, look, we free. We can stop fighting. We good. We can sit down. It is a day for us to remember the sacrifice of our ancestors and celebrate them, of course, but also reflect on all the ways in which we must continue the fight. So I'm excited for everyone to hear this interview with Beans and Derek. Now, before we do hear from Beans, we're going to hear from Derek in the Naptown Breakdown. So what's going on in Naptown this week, Derek?
Well, you recently might have heard that Greg Hill, the anointed CEO of the Indianapolis Public Library, anointed in the sense that he never applied for the position during the nationwide search, was never interviewed for the position, did not ask for the position, at no point made it public that he wanted the position, and yet behind closed doors in an April meeting was given the position. That year, he made about $163,000, and he is now set to earn $465,000 just a couple years later. Now, that is an astronomical salary. One, $160K for somebody as incompetent as Greg Hill is way too much money in the first place. This is a man, if you've ever seen him give a presentation, it is truly, his incompetence is kind of wild. I'll give you an example. So this is in October of 2023. He's presenting, right? This is actually the September 20th library budget presentation, right, to the City County Council. So during his presentation, he read a script written and projected on a slideshow, word for word. So the presentation format can increase access, to the content for many, so accessibility, but that's not a priority for him, right? He had no choice but to literally stick to the script because he lacks fundamental knowledge about how the system he works, he oversees works. He can only read what was prepared for him in advance. So it really highlights the priorities of the library leadership. And how did he get to become our unelected, unappointed, anointed CEO in the first place? Well, take you back to 2021. the summer that we kicked out Jackie Needus, racist CEO, successfully after a summer of her saying, I will not step down, I will not step down. August, we get an email, I'm stepping down. It was a huge victory, but as you know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. But there was a, opportunity for a real new boss because they did a nationwide search. They spent, tens of thousands of dollars for some company to do it. And it came down to two people. Gabriel Morley, a white guy from New Orleans who was leaving that system under sketchy circumstances, basically because a journalist found out he was violating the residency, rules. And Nichelle M. Hayes, third generation Indianapolis resident. Everybody knows her, worked every role you could in the library, and was the current interim CEO at the time, and managed to get the workers a 5% raise. And
which was unheard of.
Yeah. Absolutely. Without much opposition, right? And also just mentored so many Black librarians, which are, is so important, among so many other things. And so I remember, and I don't know if you were there when the last round of so there were two finalists, and the last round, whatever, is public presentations. Were you there that night?
I was not there that night. I came in soon after that. Yeah.
Okay. So for our listeners, we're going to play a little clip as to how Gabriel Morley and Nichelle M. Hayes answered the exact same question. And we'll play that now.
So this is a little bit of softball from our youngest member of the audience. Why are the Magic Treehouse books in Spanish?
Why are they in Spanish?
That was the question she wished to ask this evening.
Instead of English or both? I mean, I don't know enough about the collection.
Yeah. Thanks. So one of the youngest members of our audience submitted a question. She asked,
I think I see her up there.
why are the Magic Treehouse books in Spanish?
So can you repeat that? I heard the Magic Treehouse.
Why are the Magic Treehouse books in Spanish?
Because there are people, and Spanish is their language, and they want to enjoy Magic Treehouse as well. And
Hang on, guys.
And Brian, if I can jump in there a little bit,
Sure.
It might be a way for someone who doesn't speak Spanish to learn Spanish.
Yeah. So that clip, and we've listened to that clip before, but my 7-year-old was there when we listened to it, and unprompted, when he heard the question, he was like, "Oh, I love those books." Right. So my 7-year-old, who is also the library is one of his favorite places, is knows exactly what that child in the audience was talking about. And whereas Morley, who is a librarian and is applying to be the CEO in that, has no idea what that child was talking about. And also that's such a, what is it supposed to be called? A softball question? That's supposed to be an easy...
He's this is a softball question from the youngest member of our audience.
What are we... why are they in Spanish? I don't know, man, because people speak Spanish. What are we...
That's a language.
What are we talking about? Yeah, so I just think that's so funny that my 7-year-old was
smarter than this guy.
Yeah.
He knows our library system better.
My 7-year-old knows the library better than somebody who was who got the job. He got the job. They tried to give him the job.
They offered
to be
him the
CEO.
job.
Yeah.
Yep. They offered him the job. And so we woke up and we were like, what a defeat. We felt so defeated. But this goes to show you how things can change, because throughout the course of the night, because of his just horrendous nonsense presentation, and he took up 80% of the time before even getting to the presentation. They were just given 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Nichelle stuck to hers. He went way over. He declined the position because we made it clear that he's not welcome here. We don't want his kind here, right? And so here's what you do on any search when there's finalists. If the first one declines, what do you do?
I mean, you're supposed to give it to the next person.
Yes, exactly. And they did not do that. And what ensued was a series of rapidly changing excuses as to why they would not do that.
Yeah.
The first reasons by Jose Salinas and Hope Tribble, right, was basically that so they were refusing to consider Nichelle M. Hayes for CEO, right? And before Gabriel Morley turned on the offer, Tribble explained the board's decision by saying they wanted someone with fresh eyes in the situation to heal the fractures, right? Referring to the distrust of the board, library workers throughout the removal of the racist CEO. But it's like, how was Morley going to do that when Nichelle was there the entire time? So Morley declined the offer. Salinas and Hope Tribble, offered another explanation. They said Morley had decades of administrative experience, while Hayes had only 8 months as interim CEO. And then a press release issued before the board meeting, the next board meeting, attributed to unnamed members of the board, said the board initially decided to move ahead with the compromise search process, which resulted in Morley being offered the job. But that's the majority of trustees now believe the breach was serious enough to warrant a fresh CEO search. So they were supposed to do a new nationwide search.
Right.
And we said, don't do a new search. Just hire the second person. Everybody loves her. We had a protest outside, the library. People came out, all, Democrats, Republicans, had the mic. We organized it, but it was a people's rally. And that December 19th board meeting, man, I mean, that everybody was like, the people's voice was heard.
Yeah.
They just refused to listen to it forever. Yeah. And so basically it comes down to the fact that, eventually Nichelle's like, screw, like, I don't want to work here, you know.
Yeah.
And so she parted ways, got a settlement, probably far less than she deserved, but
most likely,
and meanwhile, towards the end of this, they were Hope Tribble was having the cops, armed cops, intimidate us from giving public comment. It was just terrible. And they were there when they anointed Gregory Hill as CEO. Yeah. So among those reasons and many more, this guy deserves nothing, let alone $465,000 a year. Well, that is a $60,000 raise is more than the median salary for a librarian in Indianapolis. That's unacceptable. So we are going to be there Monday, June 22nd, at the next library board meeting. We'll have that in the show notes to voice our opposition to this, and also just come and raise your concerns and questions. You don't have to oppose it, but what did he do that was so great, while the actual workers are slotted to get a regular 3% raise, which is just to keep up with inflation. That's a genuine question. Ask your questions. We're not saying you have to be on our side. We are on the side of the workers, but you don't have to be. Come ask your questions. It's our library. We have to make it public. It isn't public.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I believe it's at this meeting is going to be at the Fort Bend Library, which is also my library. And
the real East Side.
The real East Side. It's the far East Side, y'all. That's so funny because somebody came in and was like, I live on the fake East Side, who listens. And I was like, now I feel bad. Not bad enough to take it back, but I feel bad. When it came out that this was happening, and the people are gonna show up and are questioning, why do you need $60,000? That's an extra $60,000. That's ridiculous. And I think it's Fort Bend Library where the staff room doesn't have any air conditioning. And it's that $60,000 could it doesn't cost $60,000 to fix air conditioning, but some of that could go to that. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know what's all wrong with it, but regardless, there's so many things that the actual library needs. Why is that money going to the CEO who's not doing anything? Central Library closed for months, and people who go there didn't even know about it. It went months without anything, without a window.
That's my library.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us why. And also, under his great leadership, they didn't even come up with an alternative plan.
Right. Yeah.
So that's not leadership.
It's not. It's not.
That's not
Yeah.
that's not acting in the interest of the public.
Yeah. And I mean, in addition to like talking about the public, Derek's favorite person, Mayor Joe Hogsett, is that's sarcasm.
Obviously, yeah. I'm wondering if this is why is my favorite person.
Why is he yours?
You're a big fan of his.
Yeah, I'm such a huge fan of Joe Hogsett. No,
Who is?
Mayor Joe Hogsett's administration is once again in the news after an audit found that the Indianapolis Office of Public Health and Safety, which was created under the Hogsett administration, could not account for approximately $45 million in federal anti-crime and public safety funding. So the audit uncovered significant concerns, including oversight documentation, contract monitoring, vendor management, and the ability to measure whether taxpayer-funded programs were actually achieving their intended results. Right. So this is $45 million of our money.
Who among us hasn't misplaced $45 million?
Who hasn't? That's so easy to do. That's so easy to just lose $45 million. Like, that's honest mistake.
That
obviously.
shows you that there are two classes in society: those who can misplace $40 million, and the rest of us.
God. Baby, I'm stressed if I lose $5.
Yeah.
Let alone $45 million. Like, come on, what are we talking about? So for years, the Office of Public Health and Safety has been questioned about people's money and how it's being spent. That's including contracts, how they're awarded, and whether violence prevention initiatives are being properly evaluated. Again, I live on the Far East Side, and there actually was this initiative maybe like 5-6 years ago now at this point. And it was specifically for kids in the area, particularly like little Black boys, but like it was really for any kids. And it was a way to like keep them involved after school and like getting them to do something productive with their time. And crime rates dropped significantly. And when we tried to get funding, we as in the Far East Side, tried to get funding for that program again, the city told us no. They're like, no, you don't like it. You don't actually need it. It's like, because y'all want our kids to be, I'm not supposed to cuss on here, but like y'all want our kids to be in jail. You want them to be in prison. Like, this is funding what y'all are doing. Like, they don't actually care about lowering crime rates. They don't actually care about the children. If they did, they would be funding these programs. They wouldn't be trying to put up a data center in Irvington across the street from a school. They would be actually caring for the children that live in this city.
They would at least give you a justification.
Yeah,
like data. Like, you know what? We tried it for 3 years, because also like 1 year ain't shit. Sorry, I can't cuss on here. 1 year ain't shit, right? Like, do it for a couple of years and show us the data.
Yeah,
but they didn't do that. They're just like, no.
Yeah, we never got a reason for why. But I mean,
you know why? It's because it works better than the cops.
Right. Yeah, it's weird that like if you give kids something to do and they're not bored, they get into less trouble. That's just shocking. Anybody who spends significant time with children, or anybody who was a kid, which hopefully was all
former
of us.
Baby right here.
Look, just like yesterday. But like anybody knows that just like children just need something to do. Now, some who are Hogsett supporters have tried to make the argument that the audit found management and record keeping failures, not proof that money was stolen or intentionally misused. But, the people have seen these tricks before. Right? The rich fatten up their pockets while claiming that they're trying to help the people, that they're doing the best they can. But again, $45 million missing, like, that's astronomical. That's ridiculous. So one of the projects under the Office of Public Health and Safety is the Community Food and Access Coalition. So we've talked about this coalition before. We kind of helped like put it together, but this coalition was initially under the misleadership of Julie Burns, in which, Julie Burns was out here pocketing the money, helping her friends out.
And herself.
helping herself out. And this was supposed to be, a coalition that was supposed to be formed for the people during the COVID crisis, and feeding the people, a coalition that she never formed. After 4 years of our money going into it, it never formed. And it took the people to come together and do within an hour what Burns could not do in 4 years. So again, we've seen these tricks before of like this money just like not going to what it's supposed to be going to and just going into people's pockets. This spotlight on the Office of Public Health and Safety comes after the people have been questioning city leadership and public safety, downtown crime concerns, and other controversies that have been, generated this increasing criticism from both residents and even elected officials as well. So I asked the question, rightfully so, people were pissed and questioning what is the Hogshead administration doing with our money? And how does one misplace $45 million? Is this incompetence or is this negligence?
Yeah. And it seems to me that the fact that Julie Burns was giving that money to her own foundation. She was applying for grants using CFAC's name to fund Jump in Indy or something, she's the CEO of.
Right.
And she got millions of dollars in grants. And when she was asked by Tyler Fenwick of Mirror Indy, when we put him on the story, she said, "Oh, the coalition, that's all the subscribers to my newsletter." I kid you not. That's what she said. And so, yes, they don't want us to have food sovereignty.
No.
They want food apartheid. We want food sovereignty, independence, autonomy, liberation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, between losing $45 million and Greg Hill and his $60,000 raise, those are just two instances that we're talking about of our money going to, I'm not supposed to cuss on here, but going
Do
to
it, come on.
no,
I got you last time.
but our money going to just nothing. What is this going towards? Literally for the $45 million that's missing, where is that?
Yeah.
Please tell me where my $45 million is.
I know, it'd be a race.
Where did my money go? Where did our money go? Seriously, that is sickening, right?
Yeah.
That's beyond sickening. That you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
How do you lose that? If I I work for myself now, but my last job, I was the director of a very small non-for-profit. If I lost $45 million, and we were based on donations, but some of it was federal grants. If I lost $45 million,
you have to account for every single thing.
what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Even the donors would be where did this money go? The state would have been where did this money go? I would be in jail.
Yeah.
I would be in jail right now
Yeah.
if I lost that much money. And yet the Hogshead administration can lose $45 million and they're just oh, it's just, I don't know, they just wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, it's cool. Vote for me for the 4th time, 5th time, 6th time, if I run again.
I love that video of Hogshead coming out of that liquor store and them asking if he's running for mayor again. He's like, I'm not running for anything. I'm running from something. He's running from us asking him where this $45 million is because where is my money? Where is my money?
We're coming to get it. No.
Yeah.
Once he downs those bottles, I'm sure he's passed out. So, we'll just, we'll find it. But yeah, and the thing, yeah, it's just unbelievable. Even as a 501c4, the Indianapolis Liberation Center, we are I don't want to say that word in here, but we are very strict about accounting for incoming, outgoing,
Absolutely.
what it's going towards, because we are, they can audit us at any time. They likely will, and we want to be prepared.
Absolutely.
But these people, they know they are the state.
Right.
The state is accountable to itself, so they're not accountable. unless we hold them accountable like we are right now. So Hogsett, show us that 45 million, Indy PL board, show us what exactly Greg Hill did, the great work he did over this last year to earn a $60,000 raise. And we'll see if maybe we're wrong, and we will readily admit so.
I'm trying not to laugh at you because we're wrong. But all right,
hey,
sure.
You gotta have some humility.
Okay, all right,
Some humility.
all right.
Come
Some
on,
humility.
Dani.
Okay, maybe we're wrong. Sure. All right. Yeah. All right, y'all. That is it for the Naptown Breakdown. We will be right back with these.
And welcome back to Naptown People's Radio. We are honored to be joined for this segment of Dispatches from Behind the Wire by Kwame bin Shakur. He is a new African political prisoner right here in the state of Indiana. He's a co-founder of the New African Liberation Collective, which started in 2016, as well as the director of Prison Lives Matter, which is a nationwide group. So, among the many trends in the New African independence movement, Kwame is really at the forefront, and it's the formations around him, as well as he has deep roots right here in Indiana, and particularly Terre Haute. So welcome to the show, Kwame.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on here to speak to you and speak to the people.
Yeah, we got to get voices like yours out and rebuild that inside-outside connection for sure. So I was wondering, I was, reading about your story. Many people might not be familiar with it, unfortunately, and that's the whole point of this show. And so, can you talk about? I know that you're a political prisoner in a sense that many are. George Jackson, right? And that because there's different kinds of political prisoners. You're politicized on the inside, and I wondered if you could talk about how that happened and why that happened.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I was raised with the revolutionary mindset and a background in the culture stemming from my father and my grandfather. My grandfather, Robert Joyner Sr., was one of the leading revolutionary activists and led a military formation back in the 60s and 70s. He had a military outfit called the Alphas, where at that time, the white terror gangs, the Klan, it was heavily concentrated in Indiana, especially around the Terre Haute area and surrounding counties. And so my grandfather took up the lead of having armed patrol units in the community and the surrounding counties that would respond to white terror actions and to lynchings and the burnings of the crosses. And so coming up as a shorty, being literally some of my earliest memories at 4 years old at the Black Expo, and me and my dad having the matching Malcolm X outfits and him just putting that on me, making sure that I knew who our national leaders were, who our local leaders were in that history on a local level, and my grandfather and Mr. Brown and all them. And so that definitely played a significant role. And then me being unconsciously politicized through my street tribe at 9 years old. But it took until 2015 when I came in contact with Comrade Shakur, another political prisoner out of Indiana with the New African Independence Movement, actually my co-founder with the New African Liberation Collective. And when he seen the work that I was doing on the inside of organizing the lumpen proletariat, the unconscious criminal-minded members who are really some of the most revolutionary, have the most potential for a revolution, in this social climate that we're in, and just the way that I was bringing them in, he politicized that by giving me Sadiq Shakur's book, Stand Up, Struggle Forward, and giving me a political line, a direction, and a concrete ideology to move what I was doing, trying to organize on the educational, economical, political, and social development level inside the prisons.
Yeah, I like that phrase, unconscious politicization, because obviously you can't help but be politicized growing up in that environment. I thought you mentioned that I recall you mentioning that you were informed who the real leaders were. And so I know today we have many misleaders. And so it's interesting to know that that was also a problem back then, not surprising. And so it seems to me crucially important that we be able to distinguish real leaders from misleaders who lead us right back into the same, system. Right.
Yeah, what I call is, like the title of my book that's actually coming out in August, is Revolution versus Reactionary Reformism. You know what I'm saying? And so to put that into just, everyday term and break that down to the people is so important to distinguish our real national leaders between the national bourgeoisie, because that's what neocolonialism does, is it masks, its concept, its ideology, its objective, and puts it in, black face and black mask to push it to the unconscious masses to be like, this is your leader. This is the message that they're pushing, And so also to be really aware of that, really keenly aware of that at a younger age. That's where you see the difference between people like Pac or like myself or my kids now, is that when you're putting that on them at a young age, it's easy for them to not be misled, down the line, and to be able to see who these false prophets are, these false leaders, that's really leading our people into stagnation and, assimilation and integration into the system.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but at least I feel like people are becoming more and more attuned to that, especially after the BLM thing, where there was a, Black Lives Matter movement, but then the movement for Black Lives, which was, sort of real iteration of it. Now it's like BLM trademark, and they're all got nonprofit jobs and work for charter schools that are destroying, new African communities. So, it's not a new tactic, but that's one of their proactive tactics as opposed to the repression, which someone like you faces on a daily basis. And I know that, for a very long time, you were in solitary confinement for, how long was that?
I've been down 15 years. I did a year in solitary. I did 3 years in solitary. Now I did 7.5 years. And after the last one, it took a national campaign of students, of organizers, of attorneys, a whole group of attorneys with Prison Lives Matter to get me out of solitary confinement, and then to get me into an annex building where I sat for 8 months in a step-down program, which we had to have another campaign led by attorneys to get me to general population now. And it's been a fight to stay out here ever since, because of the ability to raise people's consciousness, to organize, and they don't hide it. That's one thing about these prisons in Indiana, especially with internal affairs, is they'll blatantly tell you why they're repressing you, why they're suppressing you. They say, I have too much influence and have the ability to educate and unite the Black tribal organizations. And that's the main threat, when you're able to elevate people's minds. And to go back to what you were saying about with the Black Lives Matter movement, and about just that the way that they use these organizations, that at the height, we look back at the civil rights movement, you have, and not to say there's segments doing good things and all that, but you look at the civil rights movement and the era of what they did with Martin Luther King, to pivot him up and say, this is your leader, follow him. This is who we're putting at the White House. This is who you're seeing on TV, versus Malcolm and the Revolutionary Action Movement, and the emerging Black Panther Party. And we see it again with the Black Lives Matter era. They catapult these Black Lives Matter leaders in front of us, parade them around, because they know that they're the safer option. And they know that the people are at a stage right now where they're seeking that, they're wanting change. They're ready to get active. And so they got to put this image out there so they don't come over here far left with us, and they make it extremely hard for you to hear about a Prison Lives Matter, or to hear about the Republic of New Africa, or any of these things that we're doing, from the International Tribunal in 2021 to the People's Senate. We have to go in overdrive with podcasts like this, with these type of platforms, to be our own media, to be our own independent propaganda arm, because they're doing everything. We're being bombarded a million different ways to suppress that.
Yeah. I can speak as in a university setting, we get these people who come in and they're like, basically trying to NGOization. It's the NGOization of, kids who are like, radical, revolutionary. And it's like, well, you know what? You can have those beliefs and work towards them and have a nice middle class life, right? Like that's the trade-off. And that's obviously appealing to many people who, especially if you've grown up, either, dirt poor or middle class, right? You want to have a nice life. And so that's how they get them. And so working against that and that strategy, of course, we don't have the money these foundations do, right? But that's the number one trigger for me as I'm like, yeah, okay, so funded by the Ford Foundation. Look what the head of the Ford Foundation said, in 1966 to the, Urban League, right? Straight up, George Bictimondi was like, what we did to the third world movement, we're going to do to the Black movement in the U.S., by which he meant absorb them, right? And of course, that wasn't 100% successful because trends like this live on. And I wanted to ask you a couple of more questions and this will not be the only time we have you on the show, hopefully, because I know the campaign is growing and about to reach an inflection point. But I did want to ask you, when I came up through this, it was through the Black Belt thesis, which is formulated by, Black communists in the U.S. And while, we don't adhere to the particular geography from the 1920s, that was a revolutionary line. And they fought hard. And when they gave up that revolutionary line, they were destroyed. The Communist Party lost all its Black membership. And today I see like the NAIM, the NALC as carrying forward that revolutionary line. So as a new generation comes up, like, what do you think are the most effective ways to, keep them on that revolutionary line to win them over to it as opposed to the reformist politics?
So you see what's going on right now with the resurgence and the emerging abolitionist scene, the revolutionary scene, the rise in consciousness of the existence of political prisoners and the existence of the prison industrial slave complex amongst students and organizers. And so we're not short on the boots on the ground right now and on college students and people who are willing to engage in struggle. What we're short on and where we're failing at in the movement is a failure to apply our own practice, to really apply that theory and turn it into action in terms of developing political education, of being strategic of the way that we do propaganda, the way that we do outreach. Like the social media right now is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allows us to broadcast and network and get things out there nationally, internationally. We have these Zoom calls all over the country where we might be in 20 different states on one call, even have people calling in from other countries around the world. But what it's doing is it stagnates us in terms of actually being out there, engaging with the people in a way that's going to bring them in direct contact with our line of struggle, of the way that we expose these class contradictions and these political lines to them. Because again, what we mentioned just a moment ago of the way that the movement and our leaders and the political line was co-opted, it was suppressed. And when that happens, we see people give up that political line of national liberation, of self-government, of talking about international law, the Declaration of Human Rights. These are the things that this thesis and this line that you're talking about, this ideology that we adhere to in the new African independence movement is built upon, of freeing the land, of having national territory, of having our own political structure, our own educational structure, our own economic platforms that help build and sustain a nation and a movement. These things are all missing because, again, neocolonialism has tightened and strengthened its grip and its stranglehold on us so much that even the most radical militant leader and organizer or former political prisoner who's come home and is getting back to the work, that line of action and the level of practice and infrastructure being applied is drastically different than it was 45 years ago, 50 years ago, when the movement was at its high tide. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now these same people are working 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And so you only get to be a revolutionary for a few hours on the phone or when you're in a group setting or at that event. But for the rest of the time, you're not focused on building a nation. You're not necessarily focused on building infrastructure that will actually allow us to decolonize or separate from this system or from this class structure. And so therefore, we're just throwing revolutionary rhetoric out there and hoping that it sticks. We have to be building decolonization programs, putting things in place, programs in action as we're growing these organizations, as we're having these podcasts, as we're doing these other mobilizations and all that. We have to have the other things to back it up, to give to them, that will allow them to separate and move towards a collective consciousness and a national strategy that actually build a revolutionary movement or to actually gear us toward national liberation. And so until we do that, and until we're out there at these college campuses, and we're setting up study groups and we're actually passing out material, onboarding people, we're going to continue to see the same thing. And there's going to continue to be that gap in consciousness, even inside the movement, those internal contradictions.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that 100% as somebody who, like, we insist on, like, we got to hit the streets where the people are, you know? And that's how we got in touch with Shaka in the first place. We were, we were doing hand-to-hand outreach, at the bus stop. And, like, people, and, we ended up meeting one of the people who gave him his new Afrikan name and building with them. And, like, that's where the people are at. You go on social media, you think people are, the whole world's consumed with this one discourse, but you go to the bus stop and people are like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that has nothing to do with my life. And so you can relate to their lives, give them a pamphlet, give them a newspaper, and they're hungry for knowledge. Like, people want explanations. There's a lot of power in that. Like, why does my life suck? It's not your fault. Here's the reasons why. And you can kind of see their eyes start to light up, but yeah, it's building face to face, and being a revolutionary. It's not something you do on, like, when you have free time. It's a voluntary commitment to make that sacrifice and make it like a facet of who you are.
Yeah, my last piece is called Contradictions on Organizing in Post-Neo-Colonial North America. And I say that part of one of the contradictions that we have to acknowledge and come to understand within the movement is that neocolonialism and capitalism, it doesn't afford the time or the opportunity for the oppressed nation to rise up or to separate, you know what I'm saying? Because they have us in such a way that it makes it hard for you to really develop nation building strategies, same way that capitalism doesn't afford the average working class person the time or the opportunity to stage a work stoppage or a strike in the time that it would take to actually make a difference. We see it all the time, whether it's the trains, the trucking industry, the nursing, all those different forms of labor. When they come together, it's national news. Because they feel it immediately. The established feels it immediately. And we see them get their little perks, you know what I'm saying? They get the few things that they're asking for, whether it's benefits, increase in wage, maternity time, whatever it is, the establishment bends because it has to. And so it's like, imagine, that's one of our main frustrations, I think, within the abolition movement, within the revolutionary movement, and is that we're like, why don't y'all see what we see? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going through it every day. Why is it hard for y'all to understand? Why aren't you coming over here? Why aren't y'all getting on board? Right. Because look what's going on right now with when we have the government shutdowns and all that. You see these workers that still have to go to work because the reality is, even though they'd like to quit or like to do this, they still have to pay their bills.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so when they hold that leverage, you know what I'm saying, it's really hard to get even the most radical person to commit to that type of struggle and sacrifice and be a full-time revolutionary. And so that's why it's so important that we understand these contradictions that we're dealing with in terms of what is neocolonialism, or why do we say that we're in a post-neocolonial era? Because these things are already such a stranglehold that they're so intact and so secure that the average person that's been involved in the movement the past 25, 20 years doesn't even necessarily see those contradictions, right?
Yep. Right.
And so, and it's hard to get somebody to make that commitment if we, as the cadre and the nation builders and the community organizers, aren't putting these structures in place as an alternative on an educational, economical, or political level.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things you do with leaders is you emulate them, right? Like you look to leadership to, learn how to be a revolutionary. And that's why I think it's so important to free our leaders on the inside, because, even on the inside, they're creating more organizers and revolutionaries, to provide an alternative model. But it's like, I always say, Harriet Tubman, one of my heroes, right? Like tried to escape, got caught, got beat, escaped successfully, went to Philadelphia. She could have lived a fine life there, but what did she choose to do? Go right back and right back and right back and right back, And that's what I aspire to. And it's like nobody was paying her, no oppressing class funds the overthrow of their rule, right? We got to do it ourselves and rely on ourselves. And build that infrastructure you're talking about. And so I know you've been doing that in Terre Haute. Could you talk a little bit about the projects you got going on there?
Yeah, so at the end of 2022, the New African Liberation Collective purchased a building. It was a formerly owned Black grocery store and restaurant, motorcycle club dating back to the 50s. And we purchased it in response to the gentrification of our land and institutions in Terre Haute. The Community Liberation Center that my grandfather and his comrades built in 1970 to serve as a hub for mutual aid, for resources for the New African community, and has since been taken over by the city and leased out to European colonizers that deny us access to it. The soup kitchen isn't functioning. The classrooms aren't able to be utilized for our classes or for anything. And so instead of constantly trying to beg them and ask, the goal and the strategy was to go purchase this building right around the corner, develop enough people power, organize the community, and raise their consciousness to a level where they're able to really go back effectively and demand that building back by control of a community board, the way that it was ran before and the way that it was intended to be operated by. And so we've been renovating and remodeling it. We've had comrades, cadre from around the country, from many different organizations within the prison movement and the New African independence movement, travel here and help the last few years. And the building is called the People's Program for Decolonization. It's operated and based off of Frolinon, the Front for the Liberation of the New African Nation, and it's 10 programs for decolonization. And so one of the first tangible programs that we've operated and got up and running is the New African Food Co-op program. Right around the corner from the building on the land where I grew up, we have a half a city block, and we have the Booker T. Washington Community Garden there. And this would be our third harvest this year of just being able to create agricultural independence and just raising up the people to a level of pride and culture and independence, of self-determination, of understanding the concept of we are own liberators. And one of the most important aspects of that is being able to feed ourselves, being able to cut that umbilical cord from this system and be able to take control of our lives on the most basic necessity of human life, which is nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people often talk about the Panthers and the breakfast programs, but it's like, the purpose was to feed children, but it was a propaganda program, because people through their own experience saw what socialism was, saw what, revolutionary society could be. Right. And so then when they were, questioned about it being a communist program, they're like, well, shit, if that's communism, that's fine with me, If that's socialism, if that's, Black revolutionary internationalism, that's fine with me, right? Because they were also teaching at the same time because, that's theory, that's practice together. And I'd like to talk more about that because we got something similar here called Indy Hope packages, which is we call it political direct aid because it's not mutual aid because we don't get anything from it, but it's political aid where we can forge ties and unity with, the homeless members of our class, the lumpen proletariat, as you said, which another translation of that is the dangerous classes. Which I just found out about, but I like that much better than the lumpen proletariat. Because the dangerous classes, because what Marx meant was like they are dangerous to capital because they got no stake in this. They got nothing to lose. So we're definitely on board with them being like revolutionary detonators of social movements. And I mean I want to keep talking, but we do got a time limit here. So if there's one more question I could ask you, it's about the Prison Lives Matter movement, as well as what we got coming up, because I know that there's several things coming up, including here at the Liberation Center, that are going to be people are going to want to be at.
Yeah, so we've reintroduced and relaunched the Kwame Shakur Freedom Campaign, which is a coalition of activists, former Panthers, former political prisoners, lawyers, faith leaders, and family and friends all over the country are coming together to study my case, to learn the issues, to learn about the state of my appeal and where we're at in terms of organizing and fundraising and building up my defense. And so in correlation with what's taking place in August of my album release and book release, we're going to be hitting a number of bookstores around the country, a number of universities, and making stops along the way at a number of podcasts and radio stations. One of the first things that we'll be doing along that stop coming up in the next month or so at the Liberation Center is doing the video shoot for Pray For Me, which is the next single off of my album. It's focused on connecting the dots between my case and my music and the movement and my struggle. It features a dear friend, that just lost his life last month. Indianapolis' very own Playboy the Great. And so we're going to be doing a single release and video shoot there at the Liberation Center, and working and collabing with some people like Naptown Originals, Midwest Leak, and others to help get the city to come out, honor my boy Playboy during his verse. We're going to be having a balloon release. We're asking that the city come out, that the artists that love Playboy, that worked with him, come out, bring your cars out, bring your Playboy t-shirts, anything that we can do to honor Brad during what would have been his scenes for his verse. We want to get his family and friends out there. Like I said, get the city to show up. Y'all can come and set your tent, your booth up in the back of the Liberation Center. It's going to be a hybrid event of bringing awareness to my case. It's not going to be a staged event, really having the material out there for y'all to learn about my case, to learn about other political prisoners like Shakur and other ones, the Pendleton 2 out of Indiana. We'll have all that material out there so that you, your family members can get involved with Prison Lives Matter, so you have the resources to know how to support your people behind the wall. And yeah, man. Yeah, just stay tuned for that on the Indy Liberation Center, Naptown Originals, Midwest Leak, and Kwame Shakur Freedom Campaign pages in the next weeks to learn more about that.
That's what's up. And also a book? Is there a book in the works?
The book would be coming out August, during Black August. It's called Revolution versus Reactionary Reformism, Collected Works of the New African Liberation Collective, Part 1. And it's just basically a collected works of some of mine and my comrades' main pieces from the last 10 years, giving a backdrop and a history to the New African Independence Movement and the Republic of New Africa, and introducing the new African Liberation Collective in 2015. And you just see the growth in myself and in my writings and in my purpose and method, the ways of strategizing and organizing within the movement and the prison system of building up Prison Lives Matter and Furlan the past decade.
All right. Well, we'll definitely keep our listeners posted on that. We'll keep that on our website. And we'll be sure that, we do all that we can to bring people out for those important events and amplify the Freedom Campaign, as well as everything else you got going on. And I think that it's a testament, to why the state wants to keep you held captive, because you're still able to facilitate this great work with food sovereignty, on the outside from inside. And so, doesn't surprise me. They want to keep you isolated, but, the state can't hold back the human spirit, the desire to collaborate and for liberation, So, yeah, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was great to build with you, and we all look forward to continuing this relationship and to, freeing you and freeing them all, freeing the land, and freeing the Republic of New Africa and all oppressed nations.
No, for sure. I appreciate you having me. Like you said, this won't be the last time that y'all hear from me. I look forward to coming back and bringing the progress to the people of what we're doing moving forward. In the meantime, I can find all my music and the upcoming single, Kwame Bean Shakur, music and other interviews, Prison Lives Matter material can be found on all major streaming platforms.
All right, cool. And we'll put those in the show notes too. So thank you. All right. Well, that's it for another segment of Dispatches from Behind the Wire. After a short break, we'll be right back.
And we're back with Naptown People's Radio. Hopefully everybody got a lot out of that conversation with Derek as well as Beans, and just appreciate him being on the podcast. I always appreciate when comrades who are, behind enemy lines are able to join, and because that's such a perspective that not a lot of us have, but it's also a perspective that we need. And those are people who are what is the best way for me to say this? Those are our most vulnerable in our class. And so always having their perspective and also I always learn. I learn from everybody who comes on the podcast, but I think I there's something even more special and even more that I get out of hearing from those comrades who are behind enemy lines and who have been doing this work longer than I've been alive also. And, hearing from my elders, there's nothing that could ever replace that. So I just really appreciate that. Yeah. All right. So there's so much happening the rest of this month. There's so much happening right now. What's going on in Naptown? What's going on at the ILC, Derek?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to confine myself a little bit here, so we don't go on too long, but, so the night this is released, Thursday, June 18th at 6 p.m., there is the first study group on teaching to transgress, a wonderful book by Bell Hooks that will be led by Brooks Bear and Amani, two former students of mine. So that they know their stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they're really compassionate, dedicated organizers. They've been volunteering with the Liberation Center since, they were an undergrad and have stayed true to their convictions. And, it's going to be excellent. You can purchase the book here. No pre-reading is required for this one. That'll be, again, Thursday, June 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. And then Friday, we have a couple things going on. So the Indy Liberation Store will be tabling at Flanner Farms event. And then at the Liberation Center between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., the STFU Artist Collective is holding an open mic and social event, bringing in local artists and vendors to celebrate Black joy and the radical roots of community art. That is the Juneteenth open mic. Anti-Ice Juneteenth, they're calling it. And then you can refresh the next morning, rewind, reset with Circle City Sangha. And then June 20th, later on that day, you can turn it up with the Trans Pride Brick Party. So, it'll be a laid-back event bringing together, trans siblings to celebrate our resilience and strengthen our resistance. There'll be drag shows, I think, on the hour, and a whole host of other things. And then Sundays, as always, 6 to 8 p.m., emancipatory motions, liberatory yoga at the center, 6 to 8 p.m. again. And then Monday, all out, pack the board, demand answers at the Fort Bend Library Branch, 6:30 p.m. And let's figure out exactly what Greg Hill did to get a 23% pay raise, and what the workers didn't do, so they only got a 3% pay raise. And that's it for this episode of Naptown People's Radio. If you found today's discussion useful, pass it on, leave a comment, and listen for our next episode to drop. Most importantly, show us some love at support.naptownpeoplesradio.com. Also by shopping at the Indy Liberation Store, online or in person. And if you have a suggestion for the show, for an interview, for a topic, you can email our producer. That information is on our website. And remember, the road ahead is long, but we walk together. Study with the comrades, build with the people, and always remember, theory without action is paralysis, but action without theory is chaos. Once again, I'm your host, Derek Ford, here with my comrade and co-host,
Dani Abdullah.
Stay dangerous, stay disciplined, and stay in the struggle.
We say all power to the people. That means that we are our own liberators. We don't depend on nobody else. We depend on ourselves. And we take responsibility for ourselves. And therefore, we step up for our organization. Those that have proven by their actions and their practice that they represent for us. All power to the people and peace.
Collaboration. Like, we act as if there's a scarcity of rights. If gay people get rights, women can't have rights. But that's not true. A victory for one is a victory for all. As Dani is saying, And
you talk about people being fearless in the face of whoever there is. They don't care. To the Liberation Center, I'll say, this is what we need.